and test build to load it, or if you want to use case stuff instead. First of all, if you want to use the backup method, that is the easiest way. All you need to do is grab yourself a USB formatted drive in this FAT file system, and then go into that USB drive and extract the PS5 folder from the autoload backup file into that folder. Then all you need to do is plug that USB drive into the PS5 and then restore that backup file by going into the settings system, and then the backup and restore options. And then from in there, you're going to select the restore option and restore that backup file. Now make sure you make a backup of your own console before doing this, because this will reset your console and you'll lose your save files and any installed applications. So make sure you have backed them up to your USB and copy that somewhere safe on your computer so that you can always restore that data in the future. So make your own backup first before restoring this one. And then we can go ahead and restore this backup file to our PS5. And that will get everything set up and installed. So that's the easy way to do it. So now we have the autoloader installed. Now, if you're somebody who has the issue where the second time you load, the YouTube exploit tries to update even when you have the 127DNS address added. So if you're somebody who runs into that issue, then what you can do now is just disconnect from the network. So go to your network settings, go to settings and uncheck the box to connect to the internet. That way there's no possible way that YouTube can try to update. Now apparently, the reason why some people were running into this issue when you set up your wireless network, it just tries to connect automatically using automatic settings as soon as you put in your password. So the recommended way to get connected to the Wi-Fi network is not to select any of the networks that show up in the top list, but to actually scroll down and tell it to set it up manually, and then enter manually instead of WPS. You will have to enter your seed manually. And also select your security method. Normally, that's WPA, and then also enter your password. But you must also change the DNS settings here from automatic to manual, and then set the DNS address to 70OTODOTODOT. And then once you have all of that information entered correctly, you can then click done and connect to that network. So with that method, the moment you connect to your network, the updates are being blocked. But to be on the safe side, you could also just disconnect from the internet completely, so you're safe to then run the YouTube application without getting that update prompt. So we can select it here, and the autoloader should start running. And as you'll see, it will then trigger the jailbreak. Once it does the jailbreak, it then automatically loads the ELF loader. And then once the ELF loader automatically loads whatever payload that was installed. In this case, it's running the payload that is uploaded with the exploit, which is version 2.3b of ETA. So that is now up and running, and there we go. As you can see, we now have the console jailbroken. We have the ETA hand toolbox, and we're up and running with the jailbreak by running that super fast exploit. And we're all good at auto closes the application for us. And we're still disconnected from the internet. Now, if you want the autoloader to load a different payload to the one that is built into the backup, then all you need to do is plug in a USB into your computer that's formatted in FAT or FAT3 to format, or just use the same USB. Then we need to download the latest code from the autoloader. Go to the code, download it as a zip file, and extract it over to your computer. And I have it stored right here. So if we open this up, all we need to do is go into the download 0 all of these folders buried in here. You'll eventually find the PS5 autoloader folder. You just copy that over to the USB drive, to the root of the USB drive, and then open it up. So it's set by default to run an FTP server payload. So I would just delete that in there and replace that with whatever payload you wanted to run. So I'm using a test build of ETA. This is version 2.4. Test build compared to version 2.3 that was built into the backup. All I need to do is rename this. Copy the name of it, open up the autoload.txt file inside Notepad, and then delete the 2 payloads that are in here and replace them with the payloads that you want to load. In my case, etahen.elf. Make sure the file name is identical to the actual file name of the payload itself that you want to load. And that's it now. Whenever you have that USB drive and we go to load the YouTube jailbreak after restarting the console. So I'm no longer running the previous version of ETA. You can see this time, it finds the payload on the USB drive and chooses to load that instead of the older version that is installed with the exploit. So if you're having trouble loading, say, to 0.3B from the backup version, then just go ahead and load from a USB drive payloads instead. You prefer, and as you can see, we now have version 2.4 of ETA and running with this new test build. And that is now up and running on the console. So that is how you can update the payload, and furthermore, if you want to update the payload on the hard drive, so you don't have to use a USB drive then you can simply connect to your PS5 over FTP, as long as you're connected to your network, and you have ETA running. It does run an FTP server. You can just open up an FTP client like Filzilla or Winsk, enter the IP address of your PS5, and the port number is gonna be either 137 or 2121, and quick connect to the console. Just head into the data folder, and then just upload that same PS5 autoloader folder that we created on the USB, and just upload that folder to the data folder on the hard drive. And then whenever you load the YouTube jailbreak, it will then load that version from the hard drive if you do not have a USB drive connected. So you can update the payload on the hard drive or from a USB whichever one you prefer. So that's the general setup using the backup method. I will just quickly go over how you can set this up with a previous jailbreak. If you're switching from a previous jailbreak to the YouTube jailbreak, or if you're using an older version of the YouTube you want jailbreak to update to the autoloader. So I'll just quickly go through how you can do that. You simply need to run your previous jailbreak to unlock the debug settings, and then copy the correct version of the YouTube application, which will be linked in the description to the root of that USB drive, and install it with the debug settings, and that will get the application installed. You also need to make sure you set up a network connection on the PS. So make sure that when you are setting up that network connection, again, especially if it's a wireless connection, make sure that you are adding that DNS address, changing it from automatic to manual, and setting it to 17.0.0 and applying that before you connect to the network. And then you can check to see if you have a valid IP in the system address. Settings, system information, and check you have an IPv4 address showing up in there. Then you'll be able to connect to your PS5 via using Filzilla or Winsk. You can then remotely connect to your console using by FTP, entering the IP address of the PS5 in the host box, and the port number as to 1 if it's the FTP payload, and of course 137 if it's the ETA payload. So once you've got that running, we can then head into the MNT folder and then the sandbox folder. And then you need to run the YouTube application again. So if it's not already running, make sure you run it. And then once it's running, you can then refresh, and you'll see we now have up to 0.1.6.5.0 folder. We go in there. We right-click on the download 0 folder. Go to File Permissions and set it to 7.7. Recurse into subdirectories. Apply to all files and directories and click OK. Then go into that folder, go to Cache Splash Screen. Go into this folder here and basically delete all of the files that are apart from the folder. And then we're more or less ready to upload the files. So if we go into the YouTube jailbreak project for the autoloader and go into the download 0 folder, go into all of these folders until we get here. So these are all of the files. And again, just like with the USB you want to take that PS5 autoloader folder and change it to load whatever payloads you want. And once you've done that, in this case, I'm using ETA to 0.4B again. And once you've done that, you can then upload all of the files, including that folder, to that location on the hard drive with FTP. You should also right-click on the splash.html go to File Permissions and change it to 4. For you only need to do that with the splash.html not with any of the other files, and then you are good to go. So that's how you get the autoloader installed. If you have a previous jailbreak, including an older version of the YouTube jailbreak itself, that's the general idea on how you get this set up. It is a lot easier than having to send the payloads manually. It autoloads everything for you. It runs really quickly. If it fails, you just restart and try again. So much improved after only a day. Not even 24 hours since the initial have a full beginner's guide coming fairly soon. There's just a lot of other stuff happening, so I'm trying to cover everything. But that's gonna do it for this video. So hope you guys enjoyed this one or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and once again, see you guys in the next.